Identifying there can be balance in the two streams of consciousness and that they are available, doable living patterns. It is a choice. By Rini Lindstrom, founder of Inside Awareness Center for Integrative Somatic Learning and author of The Somatic Archetypes. The bliss of somatic sensory awareness expansion and waking up consciously. In the above post, Rini, founder of Inside Awareness Center for Integrative Somatic Learning, explains the origins of the seed intention at the core of the lifestyle learning programs. Since 1990, she has actively pursued clarity on the duality she was witnessing in people's behavior with themselves and others, and the influences of it in the environment and community. This behavior has crossed all hierarchies and social conditioning. It expresses itself equally through opposing forces, for example, advocacy for the environmental causes. The force of aggression was equal in the entitlement displayed on both sides of the table. A choice to respond to life through the somatic sensory awareness while balancing thoughtful and mindful attention. In the personal post linked above, she shares a personal journey resulting from a year of transitioning through losses that triggered an activation in her stream of consciousness focus. Prior to that year of losses, there had been a heartbreak event that is called brokenheartedness in the Buddhist teachings of the Shambhala Center. There is a heart opening in this state of being that is tender, soft, and combined with a shift into heightened levels of somatic sensory awareness and perception, there was an experience of expanded consciousness beyond the limitations of a socially conditioned and educated left brain experience. She eventually was able to identify this experience as the state of mindfulness one finds in a committed sitting meditation. The difference is that it was an active living experience and not an organized practice of achievement. It was an obvious experience that could be identified as different than those around her. The shift into this somatic-led state felt like spontaneous combustion was a 4-year transitional period of little combustions leading to the major eruption. The 5th year was dedicated to stepping back to fully immerse in the potential for understanding and finding answers. The answers didn't come in a year, and it took years of commitment to tap into and explore patterns that could cultivate the awareness that was being sought out. This even meant entering educational programs where the mentors described themselves as having achieved what she was longing to learn, only to somatically discover that they had not yet achieved it. The choice was always based on the model of doable patterns that was being taught and integrated from someone else's innovative teaching origins. The balance between the left brain and right brain had not been achieved yet, and they themselves didn't know it. Why? They hadn't experienced it yet. You can only know something when you have experienced it. This meant they were never offering their own system. It was only borrowed patterns where they assumed authority over with a sense of ownership. Even with many of those programs focused on somatic awareness and mindfulness, they did not recognize anything outside their closed perspectives. The only way she could know this is that for 2 years, she was in this creative connective state of being without any loss of her developed left brain experience. The difference was that the left brain did not dominate in this experience and instead collaborated. They say all things happen for a reason, and now in hindsight, it may be fortunate that she experienced a mother's emotional and mental absence or abandonment as a child. The basic physical needs were met, yet it lacked loving kindness. For her, it resulted in a continued state of early somatic learning that wasn't corrupted by a shift in focus that didn't encourage the same somatic awareness through the 5 senses. By corrupted, Rini is suggesting this meant that attention shifted to critical thinking and institutionalized learning, replacing the early learning patterns through the 5 senses. Insight and recognition of the value in somatic sensory-led mindfulness awareness for the aging process. Those early challenges now provide insight and recognition of their value. The clarity is a benefit for understanding the differences in social conditioned behaviors. As a somatic empath experiencing the maturing students and their aged logical and analytical processors now, Rini finds they have difficult transition into retirement and old age. They have long lost their connection to early somatic senses and continue trying to navigate through their focus of attention placed on outside strategies to fix their physical, mental, and emotional functional losses. In their disconnection from engaging with their felt senses, she recognizes the loss in their abilities mentally, emotionally, and physically for supporting themselves. They lack trust in their mental and physical ability to support themselves. Without a connection to their five senses, they do not trust themselves and are fearful in their own bodies. As a practitioner who engages them in learning to connect through their five senses, Rini observes a shift in their levels of confidence and fear, where their trust in themselves increases. Learning gap in education is creating inner compact between critical thinking consciousness and felt sense consciousness. When a child enters into an adult-generated learning model, it becomes the dominant educational conditioning pattern, and the loss of connection to the five senses begins. The adult aging process lacks the conscious awareness of the five senses. At some point in early learning, the child is redirected from their inherent spontaneous learning patterns using the five senses and into focused structure of organized learning. Rini stresses that this is a significant challenge in the aging process. It also shows up as a challenge in processing emotions and throughout childhood development. If a lifetime is lived with no self-directed learning choices and behavior, reactions will be childlike with no logic. When acting out, it will be through the trigger of the somatic senses without control of it. The gap in learning from the adult-designed educational patterns is eliminating the maturation that comes from processing through the five senses and understanding how to process them. Instead of processing them through the stream of consciousness that is activated, those children are being spoken at from another stream of consciousness, effectively forcing the felt senses to be stymied and judged from a perspective of right and wrong thinking. Imagine for a moment having one stream of consciousness in conflict with the other within one's operating system. Our education is setting individuals up to do battle within themselves, critical thinking versus somatic felt senses. Incredible. Anger tantrums at 55, 65, 75, 85, 92, ... Imagine being 65 and still reacting from the age of 5 somatically while in reaction. Imagine feeling so out of control at 65 and not being able to differentiate feeling reactions. This is serious at 65 as one is considerably stronger physically than at 5. If not outer aggression, consider the inner fear, panic, and anger. By 65, the smallest event will trigger survival. Remember, the logical left brain doesn't feel emotion, and it is not spontaneous. Perceiving through the five senses and using the left brain with more efficiency for cultivating mindfulness and awareness in the present moment. From a living experience and a focus as a somatic functional integration practitioner, Rini considers how a baby is born with the ability to learn somatically through the five senses and no verbal input. A baby has all the tools they need to begin shifting their weight to physically roll over, get up, and function through walking, thinking, and talking. There is a name in Buddhist meditation that is called beginner's mind. This name is a pattern of someone starting a mindfulness meditation. The meditation is for engaging somatically in the environment while focusing the left brain abilities to calm down and become quiet enough to follow the somatic sensing. The pattern is not maintained by Western culture, and the pattern is reversed. The mind controls the somatic experience. Summary. Rini has recognized two streams of consciousness. She once differentiated it as a left brain and right brain dominance. Expanding her programs to include the somatic five senses, she has increased her willingness to begin to articulate the two streams of consciousness she observes. This ability to engage from the origins of the five senses first, as in early childhood, while harnessing cognitive function to follow the sensory input versus leading from socially conditioned learned patterns, has been a game changer in student abilities. This suggests increased mindfulness and empathic states of being are valuable qualities for supporting students through physical, mental, and emotional constraints that are limiting. These limiting experiences often translate into pain, anger, sadness, and inability to support themselves. However, the student will have to choose which side of the fence they're going to lead with. There are three choices, believe it or not. 1. Perceive through socially conditioned critical thinking. 2. Perceive through five senses, sight, sound, taste, smell, and touch, in the filter of power over and control of critical thinking. 3. Perceive through the five senses, sight, sound, taste, smell, and touch, and harness the thinking function beyond trained critical thinking for balance and collaboration that creates living mindfulness. Yes, you've read and heard it right, that you have the ability to go beyond your critical thinking. Stay in touch. If you'd like to connect, a link will be in the description box below. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this content, and follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, Pinterest, and Tumblr. Or follow Rini on her podcast at Rini Lindstrom Official. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this content, and I'll catch you on the next one.